Good day. Nice to have you visit once again. I would like to talk with you today about the phrase, all the news that's fit to print, not just the news that fits. I was brought up to the voices and opinions of the BBC until I came of an age when I could question any statement or news item based upon alternative access to other news broadcasters. I took them at their word. As the broadcast spectrum evolved and turned to television as the main source of news, in Great Britain and Northern Ireland, people still viewed the BBC rather, as trustworthy, to be impartial because that term is in their charter. I only commenced doubting that impartiality when I began to notice the difference in approach to those being interviewed. That difference, that acerbity of tongue in question, was subtly engineered as to the politics of the person being interviewed. If the interviewee was of the left, whether Labour, Lib Dem, Socialist or even Communist, the tone of the interviewer was vastly different to the words asked of an interviewee with centre or right-leaning views. Excuse me. This has become ever more apparent on the radio programmes such as the Today programme, the BBC's flagship news and current affairs programme on Radio 4. Almost routinely, we hear one of the leading politicians, especially if they are speaking as part of the Conservative Party's government team, routinely interrupted and talked over by one of the Today team. Interrupted while the target is still giving his first answer with the mealy-mouthed term, "Sorry to interrupt you, but what about X or Y or even Z?" whilst in reality not being sorry at all, leaving the Tory spokesperson trying to answer one question whilst absorbing the next question pushed at him. I watched that famous interview with Princess Diana, conducted by that slimy creep Martin Bashir. She poured out her distress over Prince Charles's infidelities with Camilla, and no one even suspected that Bashir had literally moulded that unfortunate woman's very thinking, as well as her brother Earl Spencer, before getting Diana to make that extraordinary documentary. And what was 10 times worse, the BBC senior management and news directors knew about the manner in which Bashir had forged bank accounts which persuaded the Earl to pass on the twisted info to the tormented wife of the heir to the throne. As for the BBC's supposed impartiality, I recall the words when, in an unguarded moment, the BBC Radio 5 Live's Jane Garvey remembers how the BBC greeted Labour's 1997 victory with champagne. And courtesy of the blog site Biased BBC, here is the transcript. These are Jane Garvey's words. Well, I had been up for most of the night, but I was doing this 5 Live breakfast programme with our colleague at the time. It was a bloke called Peter Allen, so I had to get a bit of sleep. And I do remember I walked back into, we were broadcasting, they're broadcasting then from Broadcasting House in the centre of London, all very upmarket in those days. And the corridors of Broadcasting House were strewn with empty champagne bottles. I will always remember that. No, not that the BBC were celebrating in any way, shape or form. And actually, I think it's fair to say that in the intervening years, the BBC, if it was ever in love with Labour, has probably fallen out of love with Labour or learned to fall back in, or basically just learned to be in the middle somewhere, which is how it should be. But there was always this suggestion that the BBC was full of pinkos who couldn't wait for Labour to get back into power. That may have been the case, who knows. But as I think there have been more than a few problems along the way, And she finished with, "I wish I hadn't started this now." Sky TV, ITV and Channel 4 are about the same as the BBC, with the exception of Channel 4 being even further to the left in their interviewers' tactics and questions. Which brings me to the evolution and indeed revolution of GB News, the newest news and commentary programme to galvanise the TV channels amid the often fruitless search for viewers who seek a channel which tries to do something different, with real debates, with finding the correct mix of broadcasters, from brand new, minted fresh out the box, to seasoned professionals who simply relish the very chance to do the tasks their directors have set them, which is to make their mark upon the broadcast viewers, to present real news and two-sided debate with real in-depth commentary, placing politicians of all shades on the spot, which is indeed something the British public have been yearning for a very, very long time. From a shaky start in June last year, with problems both technical and with prima donna commentators being shown up for their shortcomings, to now, with a seasoned team who have found a voice and a channel which goes consistently from strength to strength. Yes, I still tune my radio in first thing in the morning to the Today programme, mainly because I don't have a TV in the bedroom. But as for evening TV news broadcasting, my first choice is GB News, with all the others far, far behind. The manner in which the GB News broadcaster Mark Steyn latched on to the Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs, and how the stories of well over 1,400 white British girls, many of whom were supposed to be in council care, were targeted, groomed and repeatedly raped, and then were placed aside and speedily forgotten. The news of how the leaders of these rape gangs continually frustrated any attempt to deport them using the European human rights garbage was the spark with which Steyn blew the top off the carefully built edifice which had quietly scrubbed away all mention of those 1,400 Rotherham-based white British young girls, as he asked in his devastating attack upon everybody from the police, the local council, the so-called social workers who looked upon those girls as literally as jailbait, to the senior police and Crown prosecution services. What would have been the uproar if the girls being targeted and raped were all Pakistani Muslim girls and the predators were white, working-class Englishmen? He even brought a young woman from Telford who was actually one of the Muslim rape gang's victims. And what a treasure she turned out to be. Well-spoken, articulate, she described to Steyn the actual process of the grooming, then the rapes, and all the painful process which her life had become. I don't care what The Guardian says, or how they view that almost brand new broadcaster. I'll be sticking with GB News for a fresh taste to all the news, and not just the news that a pack of left-wing, impeccably liberal commentators and broadcasters think should be broadcast. I thank you for your visit, and I hope to see you again soon.